Benji, on LinkedIn, you're saying 90% of influencers undercharge for brand deals and time. Why is that? Why do we keep undercharging?
Number one, you just don't understand how much money is in the advertising world. Secondly, guess what? If a brand could easily get exposure to the right people, they would do it themselves, but they don't. This is why they work with influencers. Third part is too, a lot of influencers, not all of them, but a lot of influencers, they never planned this, or even if they did, they come from maybe a background where they weren't making 6 figures or 7 figures or even had the opportunity, so they don't know what to charge.
$2 million YouTube subs, 1 billion YouTube views, founder of Video Influencers. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Benji Travis. How are you?
Hey, thank you so much, Mark. So honored to be here, and I'm excited that we're recording this podcast as well as going live on Clubhouse. So looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, this is a really exciting day for me too. This is actually my first live video recording through Riverside, audio recording through Clubhouse, through the Roadcaster. We got quite the setup here. So I'm excited to get into it because one of the things that I'm really obsessed with is creating more content. How can I create more content with less time? And speaking of that, I just want to get right into the future of video, Benji. I got to get your ideas on video. We're hearing from Gary Vee that audio is the future. Clubhouse is here. Twitter Spaces is coming. Everyone's going audio. How important is video going to be over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think as important, if not more important than it was in the last decade. Look at how massively YouTube has grown. Every single social media platform has adopted video in one way or the other. And yes, Clubhouse, which is, by the way, you guys, basically a way for people to communicate just through audio only, is making a splash right now, and there's platforms that are going to give that option and those tools to creators. But the reality is this: people want to connect with other people, and if they can see them, they feel even closer to them. My wife and I, we've been uploading vlogs 5 to 7 days a week for over a decade, and I know for sure when I meet them how powerful the connection of our vlogs are making with them, because they treat us as if we've known them for a lifetime. Even we get a lot of viewers saying that they feel like they're so close to us, like we were family. And that's because we've been part of their lives through the videos, through the vlogs. And so this is where I do believe that video really dominates. So I feel like people need to learn how to do this. And I think that Clubhouse is convenient. So let's just take it more practically. Why is Clubhouse and podcast significant, generally speaking? It's because you can do something else while listening to it, right? The difference with video is you kind of commit to it. I know that sometimes I have videos playing on the background like we often did growing up with TV, but I know when I'm watching YouTube, I'm expecting the visual. And so the visual just exponentially adds so much value to whatever it is that's being said, and it gets ingrained into our minds. I think that movies are a great example. If audio truly was that big of a deal compared to video, people would go to movie theaters just to listen to stories. But they're not doing that, right? They're paying 5, 10, 15, I don't know, 20, 25 bucks to watch this cinema, right? That was produced and created by amazing, talented people. So I think that video absolutely is here to stay, and it's only going to grow. And I think there's aspects of video I think we should all be paying attention to, but we can get into that as we talk about YouTube and social media.
Well, one of the points I think you make, Benji, that cannot be overdone or overstated is that when someone's watching a video, you've got their basically full attention, and you don't get that with audio. Now, granted, what we're doing here, living on YouTube for a while, can also be listened to. I listen to a lot of content on YouTube, but I mean, searchability of YouTube, it's all there. It's all there. One of the things that's been really impressive about what you and your wife have built, Benji, is just multiple channels, this vlog style. I sometimes also wonder, is vlogging still going to be something in the future? I mean, you know, if you got in 10 years ago, it was easier to stand out, I would say, right? There was less competition. Now everyone, you talk to a 15-year-old, they want to be a video influencer when they grow up. Is it still possible to live the dream?
Totally. Let's just talk about what vlogging even means. It's based off of a word called vlog, which is a video blog. There's all types of vlogs out there, right? There's cooking blogs. There are, camera blogs. There are just like, casual connection, similar interests or hobbies type of blogs. So same thing with vlogs. It can come in different formats and delivered in different ways. And the content niches are just endless. So I do believe that vlogging has just evolved over the last decade. Now, my wife and I are known in a small group of viewers as daily vloggers. We're vlogging our life. We're just highlighting the parts of our day that we want to share with the world. And so like us, Casey Neistat was doing it, Gary Vaynerchuk was doing it, even at one point, Sean Cannell doing it, right? Daily vlogging. But I would argue anything you're putting out to the world consistently that's a little bit more casual and not as scripted is a vlog. So people were doing it with Snapchat, Instagram stories, TikTok, not so much because again, it's very produced, it's very planned, but the talks where people are just talking off the cuff and they're maybe sharing a story, that is kind of like a vlog. And so I think that vlogging just evolves with the times as people find different creative ways to utilize it and deliver it to an audience. So I definitely think it's here to stay. I do believe that there's still an opportunity for people to live the dream, as you would say. And in fact, old things also come back. So people are going to start daily vlogging again. I mean, a lot of people are daily vlogging again, just in different ways. And so what I like to focus on isn't maybe the format people know us for. It's looking at the definition, the word, and the way people are using it in very, I'd say, unique manners to create the new vlogging.
I really like what you just said there, Benji, because what we've seen with TikTok over the past year or so that's been adopted by Reels and now by YouTube with YouTube Shorts, short form video, like basically what these short form 30-second and under videos are vlogs, right? You're giving a backstage pass to what's going on behind the scenes. And to me, I think that's a really powerful thing that business owners should be looking at and creating. Speaking of which, we talk about video being very important to businesses moving forward. And I 100% agree there. If I'm a video creator, or let's say I'm a business owner that I'm trying to build a video, I say, listen, Benji and Mark, they're right. I need to be creating video. What are like the first several videos that I should be creating as a business owner to make sure that I'm getting my name out there, I'm getting my brand out there, that I'm getting my message across? What are the first couple videos that I need to have?
Well, number one, the easiest one, and it's kind of selfish, but it's necessary, is talk about what you do as a business, what sets you apart. Don't talk about how they can get in contact with you or necessarily what your services are. Talk about why you care about this business, about this industry. Talk about your experiences that matter to the potential client or customer. I think that's important as a business. Secondly, start answering people's frequently asked questions. Years ago, when I first started, I was actually a real estate agent. Failing at the time, I might say, right? And so I was just helping my wife, like behind the scenes as I was not doing so well in real estate because during the real estate crash. But I definitely finally started a real estate channel. And my strategy was like, hey, I'm just going to answer all these frequently asked questions that people have about buying and selling homes. I'm going to put it out on YouTube and Facebook. So I'd say about a year and a half, 2 years later, I was landing the biggest deals I had ever landed in real estate. I got one of the biggest accounts. We're talking 100 plus properties in a year. And it all just started with answering frequently asked questions. So of course I had the kind of channel trailer to talk about what we do and what we offer. But also I was talking about, hey, this is what you have to do to find a good agent in your area. This is how you apply for a loan, or this is how you inspect a bank-owned property. So ask yourself as a business person, what are free pieces of content or questions I can answer or problems I can solve for people in video format, and start putting that out there. And so I'd say a third thing you can do is look at how other channels are utilizing YouTube. So type in the things that are relevant to your business or your services or your products. Find other entrepreneurs, other businesses that have channels and see what they're doing. And I would start learning from them, because that's the best way to kind of hack the long road it takes to journey on to learn all these things. Just learn from other people who have already made the mistakes or are already being successful, and see what they're doing that maybe you can apply to your content. I don't know if that answers your question, but those are just a few of my thoughts.
Well, it definitely does. I can say that working with clients and whatnot on video creation, a lot of times people just try to go for the throat right at the beginning, DM me, follow me, message me. When really, I think structuring your message around what's the value that you bring to that person, what's the value that that person will get by being involved with you is a big deal. And sometimes, like what Roger Wakefield did with his YouTube channel, I mean, just blowing it out when it comes to plumbing. I mean, it's just bananas what he's done. I think he's got like 25 million views or something, just something.
Yeah, Roger is such a great example of how a blue collar worker turned business owner can utilize a platform in a way that no one else, I would argue, was doing. And so, of course, he's got his fun videos where he's reacting to plumbing, failures and like crazy, pictures of like people's kind of like, emergencies. However, he still adds a lot of value as a plumber to people that have plumbing issues, to plumbers in the industry. And so he became known as kind of America's plumber. And just to give you an example where it actually affected his business in a positive way, when Texas was having all those issues with the winter storms, guess what? He was a first personality that CNBC thought to reach out to. I think it happened through some other relationships, but again, no one was more perfectly positioned. And because of it, not only did he get more exposure because he had this YouTube channel, which gave him a platform that gave him exposure, but also his business inherited a lot of business. And I think any plumber during that Texas winter storm got business, right? Even just, just had to be a plumber and you're going to have business. But I would argue he probably got even more because of the influence he had because of his YouTube channel.
Well, it's the power of staying top of mind and staying on that treadmill where you're consistently producing valuable information to people. And it takes time to, as we've talked about and everybody knows, but it's very, very, it's almost a requirement, I think. In the past, you stay top of mind by putting your name in the phone book, right? Or on the back of the yearbook or whatever. That's just not where you're going to reach people anymore. You're going to reach people on YouTube when they're typing in how to. You're going to reach people on Instagram when you're showing up day in and day out. Something you just mentioned though, Benji, and I love your tagline on LinkedIn. We got to talk about it. It's too important. It's too important because let's face it, we're creators. We want to generate more income. We want to generate more revenue. We want to develop sponsorships. We want to develop affiliate accounts. We want to collaborate. 90% of influencers undercharge for brand deals and time. This is on your LinkedIn. Benji, on LinkedIn, you're saying 90% of influencers undercharge for brand deals and time. Why is that? Why do we keep undercharging?
Well, I think there's a few different variables here. Number one, you just don't understand how much money is in the advertising world, how much money it takes for a brand to get their products or services in front of the potential buyers or the customers. And so that's one, right? But secondly, guess what? It took you as an influencer a long time to create your influence, to have an audience. Everyone has to start at 0 subscribers. And so if a brand could easily get exposure to the right people, they would do it themselves, but they don't. This is why they work with influencers. And I think a third part is too, a lot of influencers, not all of them, but a lot of influencers, they never planned this. Or even if they did, they come from maybe a background where they weren't making 6 figures or 7 figures or even had the opportunity. So they don't know what to charge. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of resources for influencers. That's why I'm on here on Clubhouse. That's why I'm on your podcast. That's why I'll take interview anywhere where I know there's potential influencers or creators that will become influencers, because I want to spread the good word. Like, hey, you guys, you worked your buns off to do what you're doing, right? Some of us, it took us a year, some of us 5 years, sometimes maybe a decade before you built that influence. Sean Cannell, he's been a videographer, creating content, editing content for 10 plus years before he became well known and was able to monetize at a really high level. And so knowing that journey, knowing all the commitment and the hustle and the seeds planted in the years of maybe going nowhere, why is it when you finally have the opportunity to make some money, you undervalue yourself? And so people are just doing it because, again, like I think there's this disparity. The last thing I'll say is this: when you're a one-man band and you're a solopreneur, you're the only one working in your business, because oftentimes a lot of influencers, especially at the beginning, you're wearing all the hats, you're doing everything. You're talking to this brand or an agency representing the brand, and they have a whole team of people at the agency, they have whole departments. It can be intimidating for the beginner. And so you kind of just take their word as the authority and you believe whatever they say. And one of the things I'm just going to plug right here that a brand agency or somebody working at the advertising firm will say is like, well, this is the rate other people should charge, so you should charge this too. That could be a complete lie. But for whatever reason, we just believe everything they say because you think they hold all the power. But truly you, the influencer, hold the keys to the kingdom of your audience. And so that's what I'm trying to share with everybody, because, over the course of doing this for 14 years with my wife, her rates, right, and her valley has only gone up, up, and up. Even as her impressions and subscribership have like fluctuated and she's changed channels, had to start over at zero, she's always raised her rates. And I believe partly is because of the amazing work she does, but also her value as an influencer in this industry is just getting more and more valuable.
Well, and so I want to unravel this a little bit, Benji, right? Because one of the reasons she's able to increase her costs is because she gets a better understanding of the value that she provides the client, right? She's improving that process along the way.
Yep.
I mean, as an influencer who's just starting to get brand deals or just trying to get deals, it's very, like you said, it's very difficult to know how to price yourself, because other agencies, other businesses, other influencers, they're not putting it out there, right? This is like very, almost like secretive, like what is the right pricing structure? When I try to break down my pricing structure, I'm looking at what are all my fixed expenses? What are the variable expenses? Like, I got to increase go to the next level on Hootsuite, or I need, the all next, right. So there's a lot that comes with that. And at the same time, as someone who's trying to make that first or second sale, you also don't want to scare them away with a price tag that's too high. So let me kind of tell you one of the things that I've been thinking about, Benji. I'd love to get your insight on this.
Yeah. Up
to now, I've been kind of like creating custom packages for potential clients, right? The problem with doing that, it's very time consuming. It's very difficult.
Sure.
Do you think that it's better to have one firm offering, this is what I do, this is the offering, or is it better to be homogenized, have multiple offerings? Is it better to kind of like choose your own path with each potential client, potential sponsor? How do you think?
I just want to piggyback on one thing you just said, Mark. It takes a lot of time and effort to create these custom packages. Yeah. But oftentimes where the most effort is put out, the most value is given. And there's a reason for it. I do believe everybody should customize everything they do. I do not send rate sheets out to anybody. I don't just have like these base rates and here you go. Like if it gets into like a discussion that's like going a month down the road and they're like, hey, can you just give me a rate? Yeah, I'll throw out rates here and there depending on different deliverables. But generally speaking, I customize it for every campaign, for every brand, because the deliverables can be all over the place. And honestly, you don't even know ultimately what it is that you're going to be charging for until you get the contract. So it's always evolving, it's organic, and it can change throughout the discussion and the conversation. And so what I would tell you, Mark, is yes, it does take a lot of time. This is why you don't want to do too many brand deals. Say no to more than you say yes. Do the best brand deals that align with your audience. When Sean Cannell and I started Video Influencers, in that first year, we didn't even grow that much, like 10, 15,000 subscribers in that first year. We only did one brand deal with one brand. That was it. Because one thing I know is in the beginning, it's really hard to create content, period. And then secondly, to develop an audience and build that relationship. It's time consuming. So for me, I was already monetizing in other ways. I think multiple income streams are really important for people at the beginning and when you're doing this full time, because you want to have the ability to say no to brand deals and walk away, because that's your biggest leverage, right? When you can just say bye-bye and move on to the next. Then they're going to get FOMO. It's like, oh, I really want Mark. Okay. So to do that, you have to have these multiple income streams. So there's so many variables that affect having a good brand deal and being able to charge higher rates. And this is why like sometimes a podcast discussion is the only way to do it. I can make like a 5 or 10 minute videos of like, these are the 5 tips to getting better brand deals, or these are the mistakes I made when getting sponsored on my content. But honestly, you have to dig in. And so, like for the last decade, we've worked with people that helped us have better brand deals. So beyond myself, we've worked with people that represent us, whether it's an attorney or a brand manager, because again, there's so many things they have to consider. And that's why you should charge high rates, because you're doing this outside of the content you're creating, which takes a lot of time, and engaging with your audience. So I think that you have to be fair with yourself. It's got to be a win-win, because you wouldn't want it to be a loss for the brand. So why can they expect it to be for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, as the business, their job is to try to get the cost as low as possible and trying to find that place to be in the middle. But very, very difficult. I can tell you the first several clients I worked with, definitely undercharged. And I was kind of kicking myself, because after they say yes, you're like, oh, crap. They just said yes, and so kind of understanding the amount of work and effort that goes into it is certainly important. Do you think so I want to kind of go a little bit deeper on this, Benji, because one of the things you mentioned is you and Sean, you're growing video influencers. You only had one brand deal that 1 year, right? Were you proactively reaching out to brands that you wanted to work with and able to kind of like create some sort of framework of the package? Or is it just like, hey, they reached out to us, it was a good fit, and it was natural? How do you go about that? Should we be reaching out to a bunch of brands at once?
I do have to give credit to Sean. That first brand deal was from one of his relationships. And so for that deal, it was just, reaching out to somebody and presenting what we have. Mm-hmm. And of course, we had a discussion. And at that time, I knew that brand wanted to grow. And so the exposure they were getting through our audience, it was a unique audience that they wanted to tap into, right? And also the product that they were offering was good for our audience. So there was a lot of alignment there. So it made sense of both sides. This is why, again, I say pitch deals, but don't persuade the brand. So you can only do so much to give them all the data, all the information, tell your story, talk about why it's good for them. But when you're trying to persuade them and it's just going on and on, the calls and the emails and the conversations just drag on forever, then it's not really worth your time. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had deals that I've worked on for my wife for 6 months, and my wife said, you know what? No, I don't want to do it. And we just had to bag the whole thing, or maybe they didn't get up to our rates. It does happen. But in the very beginning, content and building an audience is way more important. And so this is why I'm hesitant to really push it. And I've never been a quantity guy anyways. I'm a quality guy when it comes to brand deals. And so what's interesting, though, is you could do 10 okay deals in your first year and maybe get paid $1,000 per deal, right? Or you just wait until you have a little bit more influence and you've understood your audience and you've built a powerful brand, so that a year later you can do one $10,000 deal. This happens all the time. And so this is why patience is a big part of it as well, and just understanding. But, don't like be too hard on yourself, Mark, for not necessarily charging enough in your first deals. That's just how it works. In a negotiation, even though I look for win-wins, there's always somebody that's going to get a little bit less than what they should have gotten, right? Especially at the beginning, if you don't know. I remember I'm famously known for the story where I doubled my wife's first brand deal from $50 to $100. I thought I was the man, not realizing she probably should have charged $300 or $500. And so that's just the reality of getting into industry we don't understand. And this is why, as an influencer coach, I'm so passionate about this, because I want to make sure if you're putting in hard work to become this person that has this influence, that you're protecting your value and you understand what the value is, so that you can get better brand deals, but honestly just like make more money without as much effort.
Yeah, well, listen, you're giving away a lot of secrets that I haven't heard before. I love this. I can't tell you how important this idea is of present, don't persuade, because there are so many people out there to talk to. And if you're too focused on one person, you're just missing out on the 5 that just walked past. So really love that. Listen,
Mark, for your podcast, I will literally give all my secrets away.
I appreciate that, Benji. And I would assume they can get more insider secrets on your new show, the Influencer Green Room, right? Influencer.
That's right.
Green Room. You got to listen. You want to get the backstage pass. You got to get to Benji's podcast, the Influencer Green Room, of course, the YouTube channel, Video Influencers. Now, for all my Clubhouse listeners, we're about to open up the floor for a couple questions. Raise your hand if you'd like to ask Benji and myself a question. We're going to open up the floor. This is a live recording. So not only are you going to get a chance to ask Benji a question here, you're going to be heard on the After Hours Entrepreneur podcast and on Mark Savant Media's YouTube channel. But before we open it up, keep raising your hands. I'll be bringing people up here shortly. I want to go through some overrated, underrated questions with you, Benji. I got to know from Benji, yes. Is it overrated or is it underrated? You ready to go?
I'm ready. I love this.
Wireless headphones.
Underrated.
Okay.
Do you want me to give you a reason why? I'm like,
give me the
straight up. I can just tell.
If it really speaks to you, I want to know the reason why. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think it's underrated just because it's so practical. You know, you can walk around the house, you can do, chores, especially with Clubhouse. I think it's just important to be able to like have your phone plugged in so it doesn't die. And so being plugged in, I don't know. I definitely think they're underrated.
Okay. I could dig it. The problem for me is they fall out of my ears. So I'm working on it. Softbox lighting, overrated, underrated?
Underrated. I mean, it's basically what clouds do for the sun. A softbox can do for a light bulb, any crappy light bulb. So definitely underrated.
Yeah, with you there. We already talked about vlogging. I want to talk about video messages. Overrated or underrated, sending a video DM to someone?
So underrated. So powerful. When you send a video message, whether if you're a fan or you're reaching out to somebody or you're influencer or a creator with an audience and you like send a DM to a fan, mind blown. And so for me, especially, and by the way, you want to know a secret to getting my attention? Just send me a video message. Nobody sends me video messages, right? So it's interesting because why don't they do it? One, they're probably nervous. And two, they don't want to take the time. But if you do both of those things, it really speaks loudly about your desire to get my attention. And so I personally still do this with people I'm trying to reach out to. And I would argue the reason I've been able to get so many people on my show, Video Influencers, is because I'm willing to send video messages to people, even if I don't know them or I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, I can tell you video messaging, big time, especially on LinkedIn, very powerful on LinkedIn. And another pro tip for everyone out there, if you're looking at ways to scale your video messages, just pre-record a video message and have your assistant or team member send out that pre-recorded video message to people. It's a good way of getting people's attention. All right, cool. So listen, Benji, this has been excellent so far. Next on the stage, we've got a couple excellent creators. Jackie, I'd love to hear from you first. If you've got a question for Benji, please again, remember that this is recording. So if you could just say your name and say that you authorize us to record and distribute, we'd love to hear from you. What do you got for us, Jackie?
Hi, Mark and Benji. This is Jackie. Yes, I authorize you to record and distribute. I'm from Ireland, as you can probably tell by the accent, and I have a business of 17 years, but have shied away all these years from doing YouTube videos, etc. So apart from just getting out there and doing it, do you have any real beginner practical advice for the likes of me, who has always hidden in the background from the business, etc.? This is Jackie, and I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Okay, so just to kind of summarize this, you have historically, Jackie, been in the background of your business, not showing a lot of face, but now you're one to put your face out there and become an influencer. Am I hearing you correctly?
Correct. Thank you, Mark.
Love it. Love it. So Benji, I'd like to hear from you on this one, as you are the video influencer. Jackie's been behind the scenes on her business. How can she put her face out there, make sure she hits the ground rolling quickly right off the bat?
Well, Jackie, first off, I love Ireland, love Irish people. My dad is Irish and American, so I'm technically half Irish American. But I would say this, Jackie, are you on LinkedIn right now?
Yes, I am.
And so, one thing about YouTube is it can be intimidating because, videos are 3, 4, 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. And so you might have this preconceived notion like, okay, I need to like get ramped up. I have to prepare. I need a script. I need to, record this, edit this. And the reality is, yeah, there is a lot of work. But sometimes other platforms get our feet wet to prepare for the big game. And so the reason I asked you about LinkedIn is typically shorter videos work better on that platform. So if you're already using LinkedIn and you're kind of comfortable, and I imagine, Jackie, when it comes to your question or business, if I were to show up in front of you and set aside that I'm a YouTuber and that, you may or may not follow me and I know about this. If I'm asking you about what you know, could you have an hour-long discussion with me about that and teach me one or two things?
Yes, I could probably teach you some things. I don't know how long it might take, but you've got the gift of the gab as well. So I'm sure we could make an hour out of it.
There you go. And so the gift of the gab, my suggestion is take the gift of the gab and make it 60 seconds. Just teach one thing a day on LinkedIn or any platform. So anybody listening, some of the best YouTubers start out on other platforms like Instagram or Vine or TikTok, right? They got their feet wet with something that was more manageable rather than jumping into the sea of YouTube. But this is why YouTube Shorts is a big deal right now. It's letting you create 60-second clips that are in vertical format so that you can, one, create content that's consumed in a different way, but also, again, it gets your foot in the door. So my suggestion to you, Jackie, is I would start creating 60-second videos and think of a question that somebody might have in relation to what you know, and you're going to answer that question. So, for example, I'm going to give you one right now, okay? I literally just created a script for this today, and it's about how to format your videos and create better content for LinkedIn. Number one, script your content, but follow the bullet points. It's important to read your scripts, but also to have a natural delivery. So I use the bullet points to reference when I'm talking so it doesn't sound like I'm reading off a script. Secondly, get right to the point. Your intros should tell people what they can expect, but it should be short and simple and you get right into the content. The third thing that I would say is make sure you're native to that platform. So LinkedIn, 60 seconds is kind of what people are expecting or what they can realistically provide or consume when it comes to that content. On YouTube, it might be longer form. On TikTok is like ADD style or whatever. So being native to the platform. If you just recorded a video like that and posted it, by the way, that's better than no posting, right? And again, you start doing that once a day, maybe once every other day for the next year, you're going to get so much better. Now on YouTube, guess what? You can do the exact same thing, post it up to YouTube, and there's nothing wrong with it. But some people, they can't get over the idea that like, hey, it's going to go on YouTube and live forever. You always have the option, Jackie, of course, of deleting the video. But almost all YouTubers I know, they never delete those old videos. They just leave it up. Mr. Beast is one of the most successful creators on the platform, and you can go see his backlog of videos. Very boring videos, gaming stuff all over the place. And so it shows you that journey, but practice makes perfect. And I know Irish people are unique because they got the gift of the gab from right when they're born. However, I know that over time, people get better with practice, just like you can too.
Oh, thank you so much, Benji. I appreciate that. And I believe there is some sort of a trick that you can line up your videos to go one after the other. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about that, please?
Yes. So that is there's two parts to it. Number one, creating a series of videos that makes logical sense. So this video pitch that I gave you about LinkedIn videos, it was a follow-up to another video where it talked about how to have good quality video with little to no expense. So naturally, somebody that's looking to make good videos, they might want to know like how to format those videos. So think of a series you can create, right? 5 to 10 videos, and you have it all planned out. Because once they watch that one, you tell people, hey, go watch a second video in my series, and whatever that next logical step is. Second thing you're going to want to do is put all those videos that you upload into a playlist. It helps YouTube identify that these videos grouped together make sense, especially when they're order. So you have to really think through it and plan it out, but it is very powerful. I know of a creator right now, Lisa Nguyen, that did this, but with more entertainment content. She did her journey to raising her spice tolerance to hot peppers. And so the first video was like just Tabasco and taking a spoonful of it. The second one was maybe like a jalapeno pepper, so on and so on, all the way to like the habanero or whatever. And so that sequence makes sense. Like once you see the first one, you kind of want to see the second one and third. It's just like a TV show. I'm watching Better Call Saul, right? Which is a break off of Breaking Bad. I don't just go back and forth to random episodes. I'm watching the story as it unveils itself over the course of time. So the series is the same way. And it's so powerful. In fact, I'd say the best YouTubers, they think about this. And at the end of every video, they always tell people what video to watch next in your library. And then that just creates what we call the rabbit hole effect of viewership, so that you get not just one view, but hopefully 10 views.
That's fantastic, Benji. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. This is Jackie in the red with the red lipstick, and I'm done speaking.
Yeah, Jackie, thanks so much for being here. I got to say, this idea of creating spider webs with every piece of content, I think this was either Benji or Sean, I heard this from Sean Cannell. Every time someone finishes a piece of your content, there should be no guess as to what the next piece of content is, right? It's like a never-ending cycle. They just read your blog post, okay, take me to your email list. Finish your email, it takes me to your YouTube. It just this kind of spider web, right? Really, really powerful. I also want to point out something that I did not know for a good 2 or 3 years into YouTube, is that the words that you start your videos out with matter a lot, because YouTube and probably all these other platforms are transcribing the words that you're using, and they're putting potential viewers in front of your videos based on the keywords that you're using. So if you're using the word podcaster a lot in your first 5 to 10 words, it's going to try to link it up to people that are interested in that topic. So that's something to maybe think about too when you're planning out your videos. Awesome. Well, Jackie, thanks for being here. I want to get to our next guest here on stage. And again, this is a live recording. If you're just hopping to the end, you can hear the whole thing on the After Hours Entrepreneur here in a few weeks. And of course, we're joined by the one and only Benji Travis, video influencer on YouTube, and the Influencer Green Room on the podcast. But Jim, Jacob, welcome to stage. Please tell us we already know your name. Tell us, is it okay for us to record and distribute your question?
Yes, I approve that you can record this in exchange for 3 easy payments of $99.99. Kidding. Yeah, I'm a podcast, and I started about a year and a half ago. Quest of my wife. So I create and record stories for kids every day, and she made me do it for our own kids, and I never imagined that it would grow from there. But I'm now doing about 500,000 downloads a month, and I still work a full-time job. I have limited time, but I'm getting into, like, I never imagined that I'd be this, like, quote unquote influencer, but I'm, over the past couple months, getting a lot of requests for different things: brand deals, ad agency reps, licensing deals with companies, or people trying to talk me into making courses, and all kinds of different stuff. And so, Benji, like, if you could go back to like earlier days when all of a sudden you realize, like, wow, this is like a powerful thing, like, what would you?
Mark, can you hear me right now?
Yep, loud and clear. Lost Jim
Okay,
there for
cool.
a second.
Yeah, Jim, thank you so much for that question and congratulations on your success. That's pretty awesome. I'm also a dad and I've got 4 little ones at home. My youngest is 10 months old, so I know what the juggle is like. The first thing I would tell you is go search out an entertainment attorney and a lawyer that works in entertainment law, because they've got so much experience working in this industry that might be beyond you. And so I know that's not the answer that most people would look for, well, that would kind of expect, but it is so important to have that legal background
Yeah,
to
I
support.
keep hearing that answer, so
Yes,
that definitely validates. I've talked to a few, but
good.
I'm new to this space, and so I just know who is a good entertainment attorney or who's a bad. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still trying to
Well,
figure that out.
Now,
well, for
I'd like
sure.
to
I mean,
just
that's a whole.
I'd like to
Go
just
ahead.
ask Benji, do you think specifically he should be looking for an entertainment attorney based on the topic of his show and the audience of his show? Is that why, or do you think everyone should be?
No, I think that if he's getting presented with these opportunities, an entertainment attorney will just give you some insight and maybe a different perspective to help you make some considerations. The second thing, though, is really a question for yourself, Jim. What do you want to accomplish 5 or 10 years out? Where do you see this going? Because that's going to determine the type of monetization strategy you should pursue. It's going to determine the kind of brands you want to work with to get sponsoring your channel. What's amazing about building an influence is you have this audience, and that's the leverage for getting these opportunities. The downside is now you've got a lot of options. You have to pick one. And so it all boils back down to you, Jim, and what you want to do. For example, if you just want to keep talking on the podcast and that's it, maybe you don't want to do a course. Maybe you don't want to create anything extra or sell a product. You're like, cool with just talking. I don't know if you actually talk with kids or you just talk about kids' stories. If that's all you want to do, maybe a sponsorship like bumper at the very beginning makes sense for you. And so again, it goes back to you, not necessarily where you're going to get paid the most money. What is going to fit into your way of doing things? Maybe you don't want to scale up. Maybe you don't want to have a team and have payroll and have people to manage. So, figuring out what the most easiest thing, I have a sponsor for video influencers called VidIQ. And so for that channel, it makes a lot of sense because number one, we use VidIQ as a tool. 2, we recommend it to our viewers. And then 3, it aligns with our content. So they've been very flexible about the way we present them as a sponsor. Sometimes they just mention it in one of our longer videos. Sometimes we have a sponsor spot. It's all based on what we decide at that moment, because I want to be a little bit more passive and I want to be more independent. I didn't want them to be more intrusive or involved. And so again, does that make sense, Jim? How it really comes down to desires, wants, and goals, and then you kind of reverse engineer from there to determine what opportunities are best fit for you.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Like, I totally understand what you're saying, and like July 1st is my target quitting the day job day of going full time with podcasting, and so I'm just trying to get all the ducks in a row to make that happen, because like I got 3 little boys and a wife, and so I just got to make sure that all that stuff is prepared.
There you go. But, and Jim, the third thing, and this is going to sound like a selfish plug, connect with other influencers or content creators that have already done it. People that have success in the podcast world, maybe people in the parenting family space. So definitely DM me on Instagram, right? And the reason I bring this up, not only to just, try to help you out privately through DMs, but sometimes the people that have the best information are the people that have already done it or are doing it specific to your niche. I guess it's just coincidence. I'm also a parent myself. I have a family vlog. I've been doing that for 10 years, but say I wasn't in that. So how can I give you good advice? I can only give you general advice, principles, fundamentals, which I think definitely are universal to any niche. But if you want the nitty gritty, like Benji, I want to know exactly what rates to charge for this many downloads. How much, can I get from a brand if I do this for them? So that will come from other influencers in the space. This is why Clubhouse is a game changer. I've connected with more content creators. By the way, I didn't even know Mark really before this. I saw him in these rooms. He came up on stage. I went onto the stage. I talked to him. We DM'd each other, and bam, I'm on his podcast show. I'm going to be picking his brain after this, right? And so Clubhouse, I think Instagram DMs, LinkedIn are really powerful places to connect with those people. And I find that influencers usually are very generous with their time. If, you know, you're respectful, you show them appreciation. So I can't speak for everybody, but me personally, this is what I live for. I want to help you, Jim, and any other influencer, whether you're at the beginning or at the end or in the middle, help you to maximize your profits so that you can do what you're passionate about. That should be a line in a book, Mark, right?
Yeah, it definitely should be. It might be now. Jim, I got to be honest, Benji just really laid down the law right now. How do you feel about that answer?
Gosh, dude. I'm thankful for everything you said, and thank you for the offer. I'll definitely hit you up. Cause yeah, I've definitely just felt alone in this whole process. And cause like a lot of the different podcast groups that I'm in, you know, we're talking about different things. Like the decisions and things that I'm trying to make are not what most other podcasters, like they're not at that stage yet. And so I've had a hard time finding, you know, people who have already done this before me. So I'll definitely hit you up. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to add something. It's interesting. I'm writing a book right now about how the digital influencer is killing the traditional celebrity. Hollywood is a unique place because that's where all the celebrities, actors, actresses, people in the industry flock to. And there's a reason for it. And just like, you know, like certain people in Silicon Valley go to, you know, the Bay Area around San Francisco. They like to group together. They can network. They can support each other. They can partner and collaborate. Digital influencers, complete opposite. I don't even know where Mark lives, honestly, right? And we're spread out all over the planet. So apps like this are so important. This is why I love YouTube, because I can upload a video on there, and anybody in the world that has access to internet and YouTube as an app or on a browser can find my video. And so where I feel like there's a lack of knowledge is influencer brand deals, influencer business development, influencer just connectivity. And this is why I prided myself on creating the Rolodex of influencers. This is why secretly, selfishly, Mark, I created Video Influencer with Sean, because I wanted an excuse to talk to other successful influencers. I've been able to not only meet, but also discuss and create relationships with the likes of Gary Vaynerchuk, Casey Neistat, tons of very successful influencers. There's a kid that just got 4 billion views in the last 6 months on YouTube that wanted to be on my show because he follows me on Video Influencers, right? And so I just interviewed him, and I secretly got to pick his brain. Networking is important for influencers to do. I can't say enough, because if you don't know the answer to your question, Jim, then you need to find the person that does, and often it's not really YouTube videos out there to do it. And like I said, you need to contextualize the information to what you're doing. And this is why I tried to help you by giving you advice that you can take regardless if you DM me or not. What do you want to accomplish, Jim? Like, what do you want your life to look at like in 5 or 10 years? And then you reverse engineer from there. And depending on where you see yourself a decade from now would determine the steps you take right now.
Yeah, really well said. And quite frankly, Jim, if you're getting 500,000 downloads a month, you've got some magic, brother. You've got some magic. Teaming up with people that have either been there before or are doing it, I would definitely be all in trying to team up. I'll tell you this. One of the things that I kind of understood this, but I didn't go all in, was the relationship aspect, how important the relationships are. So to Benji's point, it's probably the most important thing that we can be doing as influencers, as creators, because you never know who the next Benji Travis is going to be, or the next, you know, Halataha, or, you know, you never know who's going to be the next big one. So, I would encourage you to keep showing up to rooms like this, keep asking questions, and keep growing. Jim, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And I just want to thank everyone. Thank you, Benji, for being here and spending a few minutes with myself and all the After Hours entrepreneurs here. You'll be able to catch this episode, the full length episode on YouTube and on the After Hours Entrepreneurs podcast very soon. And of course, you definitely want to check out Benji's brand new podcast, The Influencer Green Room. Benji, anything else everyone needs to know today?
No, I feel like influencer marketing would be the only marketing. If you're a content creator or already an influencer, just know that you play an important role for this world. And although that kind of seems like pretentious, even the title of influencer, but it's the reality. If you have this large audience and you have their attention in your hands, then you've got to respect it. You got to care for it. And I believe if you do, you can live the life of your dreams. And just like Jim, it sounds like it's a perfect fit with what he already was, which was this amazing dad. And now that he has his podcast, he can continue doing that. And I do believe in July you will quit your job, Jim, because of the power of influence. And so just like Jim and hopefully Jackie and all the other people listening to this podcast, they can do it too, because I'll tell you, when my wife and I first started, we never thought we would be doing what we're doing.
Benji, words of wisdom. Thanks for joining us here today, and we will catch you next time. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.